It's now time to bring in the team from AllStripes, so Ashley Leek and Angela Jackson, and present some of their findings as well.
Great, thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you to the community for letting us speak today. We're really excited to share what we've been working on with our Kleefstra syndrome community, and it's last year it was so great to see everyone come together and join, and so now we're excited to give things back. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. So we're going to be talking about how you can accelerate drug development in Kleefstra syndrome, and we've been having the blessed opportunity of working with iDefine to really hone in on our Kleefstra syndrome research and grow our cohort. So a quick introduction as to who we are is my name is Angela Jackson. I'm currently the Senior Kleefstra Program Manager at AllStripes. I've been working at AllStripes for about 3 years now, so I have the absolute pleasure of working with Jeff, Julie, Eric, and all the wonderful team in iDefine and just the Kleefstra syndrome community in general for really understanding how we are engaging with the community, how we can continue to be better advocates, and how do we make our research relevant. And then I also have Ashley Leek with me. Ashley, if you want to say a quick introduction.
Sure. Thanks so much, Angela. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for your attention today. I'm Ashley Leek, a member of the research team here at AllStripes. My background's actually in brain cell biology, but in my last year at AllStripes, I've been really interested in understanding the unique challenges facing the rare disease community, like the burden of traveling for care, the time to receive an accurate diagnosis, and the burden of identifying excellent care providers. So some of the data I'll share later on gets at some of these challenges.
Ashley. So today we're going over our agenda. First, I'll go over our mission and our story to really understand what is AllStripes and then how it works. And then Ashley will be going into more of our Kleefstra syndrome research that we've been doing for the past year. And then we'll go over an FAQ to answer any frequently asked questions that we have ready. And then of course, feel free to continue to ask questions that we'd be happy to answer either aloud or on the chat as well. So to really understand what AllStripes is, we really love to go over who we are, what we do, and why, and that's embedded in our mission, which is to unlock new treatments for people affected by rare disease. And this mission and the people behind it are why I'm here, and I'm proud to be here today because I see this mission embedded in every person that we work with, every patient advocacy group we work with, and then also our wonderful ambassadors and patients as well. We know that we can't do this alone, and so AllStripes works to bring together communities, advocacy organizations, and researchers and drug companies to develop drug development and research faster. So we're empowering all stakeholders to work together to create a better future for those impacted by rare. We also like to go over our story. So AllStripes was founded by Ano and Nancy Yu, and Ano is actually a rare disease patient himself. He has neurofibromatosis too. And what he found as diagnosed as a patient, he realized that his medical records contained a powerful story. And so what he wanted to do was take this story and provide it to researchers so that there could be advanced treatment for his condition. The problem was that as he was signing up and joining all these researches, he found that his data often got siloed and that it was just staying within the places that he signed up for. And what he was frustrated was on is how can we bring all the research together and push something forward. And so this is so relevant to what Jeff was saying about creating a collaborative effort for research. So this is what he founded AllStripes on is we aim to give patients complete access to their medical records, really learn from these powerful data sets, and then allow patients to participate in research and track their research from the comfort of their own home. And so how does AllStripes actually work? So for those of you who are new and aren't on our platform, AllStripes is a research platform dedicated to rare disease. And so how it works is it's a user-friendly platform where patients or caregivers can sign up on behalf of their patient. It takes around 15 minutes to sign up. And then during the sign up process, patients and users sign an electronic consent form. And this allows for their accounts to be created. And this umbrella research consent allows us to use their de-identified data for minimal risk research and surveys and recontacting for additional research. And of course, Ashley will go into more of what research is actually being done. And then also within the sign-up flow, patients can list their facilities, and then AllStripes will do the work from there. AllStripes will collect these medical records and organize them and put them into your platform for you to easily retrieve and access as well. And I know a lot of patients talk about how when they're compiling their medical records, they have this thing called the binder, which is just a huge binder filled with medical records from all your different facilities. And I know that patients are seeing more than one facility at a time. And this really makes it easier for them to have a complete access to their records in real time. And so records are requested once a year to make sure that all the information are kept up to date. Because of course, once you sign up, you're still going to get care, you're still going to see facilities. So we want to make sure that the records are most relevant and up to date and represented in our research. And of course, AllStripes allows you for recontact for future study and recruitment when needed. And so currently now we have records and data collected from over 3,800 facilities within the US, UK, and Canada, and that number is just continuing to grow. Currently, we are only available for getting medical records for the US, Canada, and the UK, where we have where our electronic consent form allows for, but we're still working on seeing where we can expand and be helpful across other countries as well. And so as you know, the medical records are a rich source of information about a patient's diagnosis, their symptoms, results, and how their condition is continually managed. So the information that we collect from these medical records, and then through things like patient-reported outcomes, we have surveys where we ask patients and caregivers their experience or their symptoms. We're able to create these real-time insights, which again, Ashley will go into more depth on, but combining these research insights will allow us to work with researchers, clinicians, as well as the patient community and foundations to make sure that the things that we're collecting is relevant and can help answer new research questions for the community as well. And then we provide these aggregated de-identified insights, both to share within social media or within the foundation, and then also within the platform itself as well, where we have this thing called your care journey, where you can see your most common symptom and then also compare that de-identified to the rest of your community as well. That's on the AllStripes platform. And then, of course, if you signed up and you're thinking, what else can I do? We want to make sure that patient voices and the patient experience is still centered in the content that we create. And so we have our ambassador program, which really works to bring people together to raise awareness and advocacy for their condition. And so we encourage families or patients who are willing to talk about their story and their experience to consider being an ambassador as well, where we can create a lot of content around stories or social media posts or anything that can continue to bring awareness for your condition, because the more people that are hearing about your condition, the more that we hope that this will inspire researchers in the community to continue to push forward as well. And of course, with patients in a rare community, some communities, they feel isolated. And so hearing people go through similar experiences as they can really bring the community together as well. And so I will pass it off to Ashley to give a quick update on the research that we're currently doing with our Kleefstra community.
Great. Thanks, Angela. Can you go to the next slide? Great. So today I'm going to present some of the data from our Kleefstra syndrome cohort at AllStripes. In this first slide, I'm just showing like a high-level overview of the demographics of this cohort. We currently have 78 participants in research, where 47% are male and 53% are female. And the majority of this cohort resides in the United States, but about 15% live in either the UK or Canada. This cohort is representative of ages spanning 0 to greater than 30 years of age, which is shown on the graph to the right. And 23 patients are between 3 and 5 years old. And the majority of patients are younger than 12 years old. Can you go to the next slide? So on the previous slide, we saw that the majority of the Kleefstra syndrome cohort is located within the United States. This slide just gives like a little more information about where patients are actually located in the US. So the majority of Kleefstra patients in our cohort live in the South census region, which is highlighted here in pink. And about 86% live in large metropolitan urban areas of greater than 50,000 residents, which is shown in the graph on the right in pink. And this data is fairly consistent with the geographic distribution of the general US population, although we do have a higher proportion of patients living in the South and Midwest and slightly more located in urban areas. Next slide, please. So the rest of the data I'm going to share in this webinar comes from this symptoms survey that is in the care journey section of our platform. Because it requires participants to fill out the survey and only includes patients with a full set of records available, I'm only going to be able to share data from 25 patients in the cohort. Here at AllStripes, we always do our best to protect patient privacy. So in some of the following slides, I've grouped patients to best protect them from re-identification. Next slide, please. All right, so in the survey, we asked patients or caregivers 3 different questions. The first was the year at which symptoms began. And the x-axis of this graph shows years of age in single years, such that ages 0 to 11 months are shown in that first bar on the left and 1-year-olds to the right. All of the answers to this question were in these 2 age groups. The y-axis shows the number of patients who began showing symptoms in each of these age ranges. And we found that the most patients in this cohort began showing symptoms before their first birthday, which is highlighted here in blue. Next slide, please. Okay, so we next asked patients what year they were diagnosed, or caregivers, what year the patient was diagnosed. This graph on the left shows the age of patients when they first received a diagnosis of Kleefstra syndrome. The x-axis at the bottom shows the different age groups, starting at 0 to 1, and increasing age every 2 years all the way to greater than 14 years old. The y-axis shows how many patients fall into each of these age categories, and the bar highlighted in pink demonstrates that most participants in our survey reported that the patient was diagnosed with Kleefstra syndrome between the ages of 0 and 1, which is great. Although there's a lot of variability in that age of diagnosis. In this graph on the right, we looked at the year of diagnosis, and most patients were diagnosed in the last 7 years. And particularly the most patients were diagnosed between 2017 and 2019, as shown by those 3 middle bars. Okay, next slide. So using both the reported age at diagnosis and the reported age at symptom onset, we could measure how long it took for a patient to receive a Kleefstra syndrome diagnosis after their symptoms started. So experiences varied really widely in the cohort, which is indicated by the hash marks at either end of the line. Patients in this cohort received a diagnosis 0 to 27 years after symptom onset. Next slide. If we look at the box on this graph, we can see that the middle 50% of patients in the cohort were diagnosed between 1 and 5 years after symptom onset. Next slide. The line in the middle of the box represents the median, and this is the halfway point for all of the patients. So the median time from symptom onset to diagnosis was 3 years, meaning that half the patients were diagnosed less than 3 years after symptom onset, and the other half were diagnosed more than 3 years after symptom onset. Next slide. Okay, so to understand the initial presentation of Kleefstra syndrome, we next asked survey participants what was the first Kleefstra symptom that they noticed. We found that 36% first noticed developmental delays, which is shown in the graph in dark blue. And 28% noticed hypotonia, which is shown in medium blue, which is low muscle tone. And then 36% experienced other first symptoms like feeding difficulties, dysmorphic facial features, hearing, or visual impairment. The most common first symptoms, developmental delays and hypotonia, are really consistent with the medical literature, suggesting these are characteristic features of this syndrome. Next slide. Okay, so finally, to understand the burden of this condition, we asked survey participants which symptom most affects quality of life. 84% responded that developmental delays or intellectual disabilities have the greatest impact on quality of life, which is shown here in the graph in the two different yellow colors. This was followed by a developmental regression, behavioral difficulties, and other symptoms. So we hope that in the near future, we will be able to provide deeper information using data we found in the medical records. And we've already actually collected all that data. I personally just need to get to making the report so that we can share it with you all. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll be able to share that back. We're really grateful to all those patients and families who have already generously provided information for this study. And we look forward to providing more insights soon. So thanks so much, and I'll pass it back to Angela.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And then now we're going to go over a couple of frequently asked questions as well, just to align really on some questions that we often get asked. And then of course, feel free to ask additional questions that we may not answer currently. So how does AllStripes keep patients' data safe and confidential? So the only people are very secure and are not accessible records, or share their account with a caregiver or with a trusted researcher. I think I'm going unstable. Okay. And their doctors, then that's okay with them as well. But regularly the patient account is secure. And also the if a patient chooses to be a part of research, then of course their informed consent allows for AllStripes to share strictly de-identified information. So any other data will not be shared unless it has been properly de-identified. And then who owns the information and data in the medical records that AllStripes collects for patients and families? Similar to WhereX, we believe that patients always own their own data, always. So patients who do consent to research can also opt out at any point. And of course, if they just want to get their medical records all in one place and then opt out later and just download all the medical records that was collected, that's completely fine. Of course, the patient always owns the medical records that we collect. And so it is their information, it is their data. If patients and caregivers consent to being a part of AllStripes researchers, our researchers will organize the de-identified data in the from their medical records to combine with others within the community that also allowed for research, as seen through Ashley's wonderful insights, and then analyze them to look at the data forward to help advance treatment. And then there's a question of, if do I have to pay to participate in AllStripes? And no, we believe on making sure that it's our commitment to patients and families that it is never a cost to join AllStripes, and it is not a cost to get your medical records into your account. The other questions ask if you will we let you know if we share your de-identified data? And of course, we will notify you and let you know that when your de-identified data is going to be used a part of research, and make sure that you are consented to be a part of research as well. And then we'll also notify patients or families if there are any additional research opportunities if they want to be a part of that as well. And then finally, who can access the research? So if the patient and the user gives proper research consent by signing our broad electronic consent form, then the research community, people like academic researchers, clinicians, or within the industry can work with AllStripes to access strictly the de-identified data for research purposes. Of course, as in many of the presentations, we believe that the more people that are researching your condition of interest, the better. And so we will never enter any exclusive partnerships with a specific researcher or with a specific company, because given ANO's commitment to making sure that data isn't siloed, we also want to make sure that we're working with everyone who is interested in working with our data. So of course, there might be other questions, but if there's anything that we don't touch upon today, please feel free to email support@allstripes.com for any questions. We'd be happy to respond to you then as well.